everybody, some jerk with a camera here. I am currently hard at work on the Season 3 finale of Some Jerk with a Camera, which should be released in late July. But in the meantime, I thought I'd try something a little different. Now, my main show, Some Jerk with a Camera, is devoted largely to big, elaborate reviews of park attractions and paraphernalia that have been around for a while. And I also plan to do more on-location vlogs about new stuff that opens that are more off the cuff and just sort of initial reactions. But this new vlog series that I'm starting right now is much more about looking into the future. It's a show where I stay at home and read and dissect news and rumors of upcoming developments at theme parks of note and offering my take on them. So please keep your hands and arms inside the internet at all times, folks. This is State of the Parks. And we are starting our first episode with a doozy of a rumor. Back in the late 90s, Universal Studios struck a deal with Marvel Comics to build Marvel's Superhero Island, which opened at Universal's Islands of Adventure in Florida in 1999. In 2009, Disney acquired Marvel, and for years they tried to wrangle the theme park rights to Marvel away from Universal, and to make a long story short, too late! They failed. Marvel characters with contract disputes between studios? Who ever heard of such a silly thing? So even though Disney owns Marvel, Universal still has exclusive theme park rights in perpetuity to Spider-Man, the Hulk, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and the Avengers, among others, along with the Marvel Comics brand name itself. But that contract only applies within a 500-mile radius of Orlando. In other words, Disney legally can't open any Marvel attractions at Disney World, but they can at Disneyland. Back in late March, a rumor started circulating around Twitter that Disney was planning to revamp DCA's Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, a ride I may have mentioned a few times.
The new Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, the new Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, the new Twilight Zone Tower of Terror.
Into, of all things, a Guardians of the Galaxy ride. The rumor stated that Disney would shut down the Tower of Terror this fall, do about 6 months or so of refurbishments, and reopen it in May of 2017, just in time for the premiere of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, when I first heard this rumor, like the diligent journalist I am, I immediately brushed it off. Theme park fandom tends to get a lot of crazy, baseless rumors that never actually happened, and I was convinced that this was one of them. I was convinced it would die a quick death. But then something weird happened. It didn't. More and more entertainment news sites picked up this silly rumor as a genuine story. Even the LA Times covered it. Even at midnight, an honest-to-God television show on television used it as the basis of a hashtag war.
Rumors abound that Disneyland's Twilight Zone-based Tower of Terror will soon be taken over by a ride based on Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm sad, I'm also excited.
Now, I want to make it clear it was never officially announced, and it still hasn't been as of this recording, and until it is technically still just a rumor. But I must say, this kind of attention almost never happens to rumors that Disney isn't at least considering actually doing. And that's not to say they're definitely gonna do it. I mean, remember when we all heard that Tomorrowland was gonna turn into Star Wars Land? And then it kinda, sorta did, but not permanently, I think. Shut up! My point is, when rumors about this sort of thing just don't die, there's usually some sort of truth in it. Disney probably is actually considering this, and a lot of people are upset about it, because beyond just not wanting to lose the Tower of Terror, it just seems so random. According to the rumor, the Hollywood Tower Hotel will be made over into the Collector's Mansion, the Benicio del Toro character. Which seems a bit of an odd choice, since the Collector really wasn't that big a character in the movie, and according to IMDb, he's not even in the sequel. Besides, Disney still hasn't made this Del Toro's mansion yet! I'm just saying, priorities, people. With only a few months to make it happen, they wouldn't have time to drastically alter the layout of the building, or the vehicles, or the ride tracks, or really anything more than a few cosmetic changes. So how do you make the talking space raccoon movie fit narratively into that?
Oh! You said it yourself, bitch. We're the Guardians of the Galaxy.
I have a theory. And this is no more than a fan theory. I want to make that clear. I am in no way privy to the goings-on at Imagineering. If I end up being right about this, it is purely coincidental. There is no way I am that smart. So in my theory, you enter the building, and the large room that's now the Hollywood Tower Hotel lobby is instead the collector's living room or something. You enter what's now the Tower of Terror library, but on the monitor, instead of Rod Serling's intro, you watch Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax, Rocket, and Groot give exposition. They tell you that they've just stolen all this valuable stuff from the collector, and they're loading it up into escape pods, and they need you to get into those escape pods with the stuff to watch over it, and they can't come with you because reasons, but they're gonna launch you out of the building. So you go through the rest of the line, and now instead of boarding an elevator, the ride vehicle is an escape pod. The cast members are all dressed as the collector's minions who will no longer be his slave! You come up about halfway, and instead of the mirror room and or the room with the ghost, you come to the Guardians sitting at a control panel. Maybe they're animatronic, maybe they're on a screen, maybe half and half. Okay, we're gonna blast you up out of the building and into space. Everyone ready? T-minus 5, 4, 3, 2, 1... Ah! And you plummet back down the shaft. Damn it, Rocket! You pushed the wrong button! Okay, I think we got it working now. The escape pod goes back up the shaft and down again. Up and down and up and down. You hear them bicker with each other and try to figure out how to make the damn thing work. Finally, you reach the top with a view of DCA and everything, and you hear them say, "All right, now we got it. Hold on to something. 3, 2, 1... And you plummet all the way down to the very bottom, and when you land, you hear a big old crash. Ah, damn it, we broke it. Sorry, folks, you better clear out before the collector comes home. Enjoy the rest of your day on Nowhere. Not only does this concept fit perfectly into the framework of the Tower of Terror, but I think it's a very Guardians-esque idea. Take all this grand, epic space adventure posturing and turn it into a big, dumb, cartoony joke about failure. For all we know, there might be a scene similar to that in Guardians 2. I mean, just because the Collector's not in it doesn't mean they don't go to his house. Maybe. Okay, that's a bit of a stretch. And if rumors are to be believed, I hear James Gunn is actually consulting on this ride and writing the character dialogue, which... I just love that. 20 years ago, this guy's biggest claim to fame was writing Tromeo and Juliet, and now he's writing a Disneyland e-ticket. That is just beautiful. And in the bigger picture, this also makes sense logistically. Marvel is pretty much the biggest thing in pop culture right now, and that's not going to change anytime soon. So in the long run, when Disneyland finally does open Marvel rides, they'd be remiss not to make it a whole land. You know, a Marvel superhero island west, if you will. But where would they have the room for it? Well, there is still one little section of the original Disneyland parking lot which remains unswallowed up by DCA for the time being, and by a staggering coincidence, it is right behind the Tower of Terror. Now, granted, that is facing away from the view you have at the top of the Tower of Terror, but, hey, you don't see Critter Country from the top of Splash Mountain either. And they did just recently kick Marvel out of the second floor of Star Wars Launch Bay, and now the Captain America and Spider-Man meet and greets are in DCA, right near the Tower of Terror. This is very likely an attempt to establish to guests early on that this is where you go to get your Marvel fix from now on. In fact, there are some rumors that Disney might just be getting rid of Hollywood Land entirely and replacing it all with Marvel stuff. I'm not sure I buy that, though, if only because they just opened Frozen live at the Hyperion, and that's not going to fit the theming. Unless, of course, they retcon Elsa into a Marvel superhero. And here's where this gets really almost interesting. Guardians of the Galaxy was not included in that original Universal deal. It was such an obscure title, no one ever thought to think about it. So theoretically, Disney could clone the Guardians of the Galaxy ride in Florida, too, as long as they make absolutely no mention of it ever having been associated with Marvel. Now, according to these rumors, Disney doesn't actually plan to do that, at least not yet. For the time being, it looks like this whole Guardians thing is going to be DCA only, and the original Tower of Terror at Disney's Hollywood Studios in Florida will be left alone. But that doesn't mean they don't want that option. Oh, and by the way,
The top 5 reasons why it would be a very bad idea to put Guardians of the Galaxy into the Florida Tower of Terror, at least right now. Number 5!
the legal stuff I discussed already. Just because Disney can put Guardians in Florida doesn't mean they should. Especially a few years from now, once the MCU is in phase 7 or 12 or whatever, and the Guardians start showing up in the same movies as Spider-Man and the Hulk. It's gonna be really hard to explain to your average tourist why their rides have to be in two separate resorts.
Number 4!
Guardians fits better in Rock and Roller Coaster. Hell, Aerosmith ain't gonna be around forever. What if you turn the Rock and Roller limos into spaceships with a kick-ass song from Awesome Mix Volume 1 or Volume 2 playing, and then you... Okay, yeah, that's basically just Space Mountain, but with a different soundtrack. Okay, I got a better number 4.
A better number 4!
Don't put all your eggs in both towers. Whenever you make way for something new by getting rid of a beloved fan favorite that's on both coasts, it's always wise to try it on just one coast first. That way, if it turns out you've only made things worse, like, for example, the ill-fated Enchanted Tiki Room under new management, well, at least your incompetence didn't spread to both sides of the hemisphere. But at least they would never put Gilbert Gottfried in the Tower of Terror either. I mean that would...
I'm Gilbert Gottfried, and I'm wearing a fuzzy pink bathrobe. Come on, let's go solve the mystery.
I swear to God, he's following me.
Number 3!
California looks the part more. Now, I know slightly less than nothing about architecture, so please take my opinion with all of the grains of salt. But compare these pictures of the two American Towers of Terror. Doesn't this one just look more alien? I think it does. It's very boxy with all those weird angles and things jutting out of it. I don't know how to describe it, but I think if you remove the sign, the balconies, and the palm trees, I would buy it as something that belongs on nowhere. This one, not so much. It looks too much like a tower designed by measly Terrans. Again, just my opinion.
Number 2!
California needs it more. Pretty much everyone who's ridden both American Towers of Terror agrees that the Florida one is superior. It's longer, it's got that fifth dimension scene in the middle, the drop sequences are randomized, which is more exciting, and the Rod Serling impression doesn't suddenly change voices between the pre-show and the ride. Even the hill you have to walk up just to get to the ride in Florida, it's just got so much great ominous mood-setting atmosphere about it. It's damn near perfect. The DCA version gets points for adding the mirror room, which is a cool effect, but not cool enough to cancel out all the good stuff in Florida. In fact, when the DCA version opened in 2004, the fans largely bitched and moaned that it wasn't as good as Florida, and why couldn't Disney have opened something unique instead? And now, Disney might be changing it into something unique, and the fans are bitching and moaning all over again. You just can't win with these people. And that's why the number 1 reason is number 1 because it will actually benefit the park and not just the fans. Hollywood Studios needs to keep as many rides open as possible right now. Longtime viewers might remember my 10 years of DCA video, back when DCA was more or less a sea of work walls. Well, that's happening again now to Disney's Hollywood Studios in Florida. Star Wars Land is being built, Toy Story Land is being built, and as yet undisclosed third land, Cars Land, is being built. The whole park is completely redefining itself, but in the meantime, it still has to be open every day of the year. And it would be very, very stupid in the midst of all this construction to close down what is easily the most iconic, most beloved, and overall best thing in the entire park for 6 whole months. Even for the sake of the only Marvel movie with more than one good song in it. So after considering all this, if the rumor ends up being true, I'm actually really looking forward to it. Obviously, I won't know if it's an upgrade or a downgrade until I ride it, if I ever actually get to ride it, but, you know what? As long as the Florida ride stays as is, I think it's worth a shot. Guardians of the Galaxy was not only a really good movie, it's such a wonderfully weird movie. It's the kind of idiosyncratic exercise in let's just throw it at the screen and see if it works that I would never have expected to become part of Disneyland if not for this very specific set of circumstances. I mean, if you can accept that a good movie can have a talking raccoon in it, why not a ride? If nothing else, it's a better fit than the Twilight Zone. When they built the original ride in the early 90s, the Twilight Zone was a last-minute addition. They designed this drop ride around the backstory of a Hollywood hotel with a haunted elevator, but management refused to sign off on it unless it had a recognizable franchise in its name. And the thought process was literally, well, okay, no one's ever really done a famous story about a haunted elevator. Like, ever. We kind of thought we were breaking new ground here. But the Twilight Zone was an anthology series, so they could have done it, and it was never a great fit. And it doesn't even make that great a Twilight Zone episode.
The attraction takes guests up 13 stories. 13. and drops them multiple times.
So they get dropped multiple times, and then what happens?
Oh, twist. They all survive. I mean, it's just a sort of...
Basically, this is 5 people who fall down.
Yes.
And it carries my name.
They plummet.
They'll drop you. Ooh. What narrative zest.
Try to imagine, if you will, a dimension where Guardians of the Galaxy and the Twilight Zone were switched. Imagine that Guardians was a famous film from a bygone decade, one still fondly remembered even by those who haven't seen it. Imagine that Disney built a ride around that nostalgic recognition, and now imagine that suddenly they rethemed it around some popular new anthology science fiction TV series. How would you react? Would you look past the comfortability of what you've grown accustomed to and consider which one objectively works better? Or would you have the exact same fan anger over essentially the exact same drop ride, proving once and for all that people simply don't like change? Consider that as Ooga Chaka plays in your head as you exit the ride through the Howard the Duck gift shop into the Twilight Zone.
Help, I stepped into the Twilight Zone. There's that hitchhiker again. Is he a clone? The moment I thought I had broken free, the Tower of Terror got the drop on me. Help, I've stepped into the Twilight Zone. Aliens fed us, just look how we have grown. The book that they brought is called To Serve Man. So why am I pasting in this frying pan? Can't leave the Twilight Zone when the rerun hits the show.
It's a shame to see the Tower of Terror go away. Every part of that ride was great, especially the ironic twist at the end where you watch people explain to their kids what Twilight Zone is.
They call him Howard the Duck.